What is going on, all you Pokemon collecting maniacs out there? This is Ryan, the PikaPikaPapa, and I am so freaking happy that we started this series. This is a great example of a subscriber who dropped some comments and sent me some suggestions and said, hey, I would appreciate it if you did this work and showed it to the group, and it has just turned out to be a really, really cool piece of content. So what are we looking at here? Now, I have done this same view for Sun and Moon chase cards. We've done it for Sword and Shield chase cards. We did it for Evolving Skies, and now I've got tons of requests to do it for Fusion Strike, so here we are. And what we're looking at here really is PSA 10 gem rates, PSA 10 population, and raw card prices, and we're going to draw some conclusions from that. So these are the big chase cards from Fusion Strike. I've got the name over there. Obviously, the set is Fusion Strike. And then I have the overall PSA 10 population in that PSA 10 column. Then I have the total number of cards that have been sent to PSA for grading, right? Because that gives us that gem rate column. So out of the total number of cards, what percentage of them end up in a PSA 10 holder? Then to the right of that, I have the PSA 10 price. Then to the right of that, I have the current raw card price. And that gives us a ratio, right? The ratio of raw card price to PSA 10 price, right? And then the lower the ratio is, the more inclined I am to go ahead and buy a card in a PSA 10 case. Because why would I pay a premium for a raw card when I can pay a very small multiple and get it in a PSA 10 holder where I know that I have an authentic and genuine card? I know I have the highest degree of quality. I know I have the best opportunity for long-term price appreciation. So this has been a really cool exercise for us to go through. Now, I've been getting a ton of questions after these videos in regards to, hey, listen, if the ratio is at a certain point, should I buy it and grade it and flip it? And I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Or should I just buy the raw card and hold on to it? Or just tons of questions about this. So I thought this would be a ton of fun for us to not only talk about the Fusion Strike cards, but also to answer some of those questions. Now, what was interesting to me about Fusion Strike was the average gem rate here is 58.3%. In Evolving Skies, the average gem rate was 63.1%. So that is not a trivial difference. A 5% lower gem rate here in Fusion Strike. So the quality, I mean, think about it. You have a total of, 39,000 cards that have been sent through, like a huge number of cards that have been sent through. So a 5% difference is a big, big difference in terms of print quality here in Fusion Strike. And that's something to remember. And when we're talking about, how these cards populations might change over time. So listen, hey, I just want to remind everybody, if you entered the contest, guess what? We're going to be pulling winners on Friday. So if you like this video today, and if you're excited to see if you won that contest, go ahead and make sure you check out the Friday video as well. And as I always say, listen, you guys are the reason this channel exists. So if you're watching this and you haven't done it yet and you enjoy it, hit the subscribe button. If you have questions or comments, drop them down below. And as always, if you like what you see, give us a thumbs up. I can't wait to announce the winners to the contest on Friday. Should be a ton of fun. So with that being said, let's get into the first group right here. So you've got the Celebi V right here, and then you got the Mew VMAX, the Rainbow Secret Rare card. And I thought these would be really cool for us to jump off and talk about, because I thought I would go through the example of buying raw and flipping graded in order to try and make some money. Now, here's something that I want you to think about. So we'll talk about a card that looks like it could be a good play. The Celebi right there. It's got you can buy it for $25-ish in the raw right now, and PSA 10s are going for in the mid to high 90 range. I even saw a couple that sold for over $100. So here's what I want you to think about. So let's say you buy this raw for $25 off of eBay, your local card shop or whatever. First off, you have to pay that the pictures that you saw or the way you looked at it in the shop was accurate, and you're getting a PSA 10 worthy card. Then you have to incorporate the grading fees. So let's say it costs you $18 to go ahead and send this off and get it graded. There's shipping fees back and forth. There's the actual grading fees, right? And not only do you have to pay to send it through, you have to pay to get it graded. How many of us have sent through cards that we would have sworn were PSA 10s and they come back in a 9 holder? So not only do you have to hope that you think the card is a PSA 10, then you have to hope PSA agrees with you that it's actually a 10, right? The other thing you have to think about too is prices change. If you are like me, I send through value bulk pricing, right? So it can take 3 months at times, sometimes even longer, depending on what's going on at PSA, to get that card back. So especially with the newer cards that come out, you have to hope that in the time that you've spent that card through, that the price doesn't decline, because you can't sell it if you don't have it in your hand, right? And then let's say you sell it on eBay for $100. Let's just round up to round numbers. You get this back, it came through PSA 10, you sell it for $100. Seller fees, and this includes shipping, usually is about 20%, so that's going to be $19. So let's say you generate $95 in revenue just out of the, let's just use that number, 95, and then your costs are, let's say $25 to acquire the card, $18 in shipping to get it graded, then $19 in seller fees. That's a net of $33. But then again, remember, you're gonna have to pay taxes on that. The tax man is always trying to get their nickel. There's gonna be some other fees associated with that, right? You gotta get an envelope to put it in. There's just all kinds of things that come along with it. And again, what if you buy 3 of these and only one of them ends up in a PSA 10 holder? I'm not saying you can't make money doing this. I'm not saying it's not a great play. I'm just saying I wanted to present this kind of information for everybody to understand and everybody to think about before they start buying a ton of raws and trying to flip them and get them graded. People make money doing it, but if it was easy, everybody would do it. So think about all of that. But I do like this Celebi card. I think it's a great play from a raw price perspective, right? There's a really low gem rate on it, only 50%. Like, you got the Mew up above it, which is another great card. Really low PSA 10 population on the Mew, right? Less than 1,500 right now, but that gem rate is really, really high at over 65%. So 2 cards that I would be interested in possibly getting in the raw space, and then maybe I could hold on to them as they're raw, but if I wanted to send them into PSA to get some upside to them, again, the ratio is 3.28 and 3.7. So those are the type of numbers where I start thinking about, hey, these are ones I can buy raw, send in and get them graded. Now, the next thing that we're gonna look at right here are the big dogs from the set, and that's the Gengar VMAX and the Espeon VMAX. 2 cards which, again, really, really high pops, which we see in the big chase cards. That's not uncommon. When we did the Sword and Shield chase card set, the average chase card had about 6,600 in a PSA 10 holder, so these are actually a little bit below the average. And the gem rate right there, the gem rate on these VMAX cards, we've seen it across the whole Sword and Shield era, is really, really high. So again, you got the Gengar VMAX with a 62% gem rate, then you got the Espeon VMAX with a 66.4% gem rate. But I will tell you this, that Gengar card is getting really, really hot. I've seen multiple sold on eBay over $600, and right now the cheapest one you can find at the buy it now level is $699. With prices that high, it is looking really, really interesting to look at some raw, because the raw still is in the $234 range. Again, if this gets to be a $750, $800 card, getting a raw one of these at 250 bucks, I guarantee you that the raw card price is going to start to appreciate and start to climb with that, and it has a pretty high gem rate. So I really like that. The other thing I wanted to call out is more Fusion Strike is going to be opened. I think the booster boxes are going to be less and less open, because as the price continues to climb there, it's a sealed investment. Why would you open it? But there's a lot of Fusion Strikes and a lot of ancillary products. So there are going to be more of these that are introduced into the system, and they do have relatively high gem rates. So I mean, this PSA 10 population is going to increase. What's going to matter is how many people are out there with open arms waiting to scoop them up, and to see how high is for this Gengar VMAX alt art. I love it. It's my favorite card from the Sword and Shield era. It's even more, I like it more than the Moonbreon. Like, this is my card. I'm not spending $700 for it, but I do think this card's absolutely epic. So the next ones I wanted to talk about here are really cool, and I've talked about these 2 cards in the past, especially that Mew V. I really like that Mew V, and I'm starting to see this sell for over $100 in that PSA 10 holder, and you can buy it for about 30 bucks on eBay. Now remember, Mew is the #3 most graded Pokemon every single month. It is always Charizard, it is always Pikachu, and then it is always Mew. So a really popular Pokemon right here from an incredibly popular set in Fusion Strike. These cards are fire. Now, I like the V over the VMAX. The VMAX also has a much higher gem rate. Again, I love the fact that there's less than a 50% gem rate on that V, because simply there is going to be more opened, and hey, if there's more opened, if there's more pulled, at least it's got a lower gem rate. And the population sitting at 4,700, I mean, that's a pretty high population, but if this card starts to get on fire further down the road, this card could do, I mean, it really could jump up in value. So I'm excited for this. I love the fact that I'm already seeing the PSA 10 start to sell in that $100 range, because if it starts to get in the 110s, 120, and you can still pick up that raw in the $30, $35 range, I think that is an absolute steal. Love the artwork, and I think this card's got all kinds of upside all over it. Now, the next ones I wanted to talk about right here are the 4 cheapest alt arts from the entire set, and that Genesect card is another one that we have talked about ad nauseum here on this channel. Everything that I love about this card is on display right here. First and foremost, there have been more of those submitted to grading than any other card on this list, yet it has one of the lowest gem rates we have seen. There is only 48.6% gem rate out there, right? So even though there has been more of these submitted than anything else, there is still only 1,054 in population, which is absolutely crazy. And these cards raw are going for $10, $11, $12. I've seen buy it nows for the PSA 10s sitting at $60. So you can still get this in a relatively, I would say, approachable price point. Now, again, just just because something's cheap doesn't make it a good investment. You have to hope that people think this card is as awesome as PikaPikaPapa does in the long run. All I'm saying is the fundamentals are here so that if this card does get popular, and it doesn't have to turn into a $50, $75, $100 raw card, but if this card does start to get hot, I think the fundamentals are here for there to be some awesome value in this. Now, when you talk about the Greedent down there and you talk about the Sandaconda, those are great examples of cards that I would buy raw and I would not send them in to get graded. I would buy the best copies that I can raw. I'd put them in my Pokebinder, and then if for whatever reason they start to get hot or they start to gain value in the future, then I would look at submitting them, simply because your cost to submit is going to be, it's a huge percentage of what their value is right now, right? If you can sell that for $50, but your grading cost is $18, that's just too high of a cost percentage. I am always looking to make sure that my percentages and my numbers line up. Now, the Inteleon right now, listen, it's got a crazy high gem rate. You know, I just feel like that card right there, if it does start to get hot, if for whatever reason Fusion Strike singles get really, really hot and the prices start to ascend and we all think, oh my God, this is going to be a great long-term investment, then I think that a lot of people probably have these in binders. A lot of people have these, they just haven't sent them in to get them graded yet. And with the gem rate being as high as it is, I think the market could be flooded with these, which could help degrade that price in the future if it does start to get hot. So that's another thing to think about as well. It's got almost a 72% gem rate, which is as high as we've seen in any ultra modern chase card, even though this, I wouldn't call it a chase card, right? But alt art card or super rare card. So again, that's my take on that one. And actually, that's my take on all of these Fusion Strike cards. I think that there is some awesome opportunity here. I think the exciting thing about this Fusion Strike set is that there's different ways to skin a cat here. There's a bunch of different approaches. You could say you could buy some of them raw and hold on to them in hopes that if they catch fire, then you can send them in to get graded. There's a couple cards that I think right now I would love to buy and have them and send them in and get graded just because I'd rather have the PSA 10 holder now. But no matter what, watching these over the course of time, watching how the booster box price moves and how these moves is going to be incredibly telling. And you know, if anybody's going to do it, it's going to be your boy PikaPikaPapa. So hey, listen, I hope you enjoyed this. If there's another set you want me to see done, again, we did Sword and Shield Chase, Sun and Moon Chase, we've done Evolving Skies, we've now done Fusion Strike. I am happy to do any other set, so drop it in the comments down below. I can't wait to share with you the results of the contest on Friday. I hope you have an epic one. Thank you so much for watching. See you, everybody. Bye.